My daughter Clara had been coming home later these days, her arms full of glossy shopping bags. First it was the red convertible in the driveway, then the diamond studs. Today it was a dress in a box so pretty I almost didn't want to touch it. I was at the kitchen table peeling apples when my daughter walked in, humming to herself. "That's beautiful," I said, nodding at the box. "Big sale?" She set it on the counter, glanced at me, her mother, just long enough to say, "You'll never see a dime of my money, Mom." No smile, no laugh to make it a joke, just flat. For a second, I thought I'd misheard her over the ticking clock. My hands froze mid-peel. My own daughter Clara, the same girl I'd held through storms, whose insurance premiums I'd paid for 14 years. I searched her face for a crack, for some sign she didn't mean it, but her eyes had already slid past me, landing on her phone. "I'm Evelyn Hartman, 63 years old, from Fairview, a small town where I once believed family meant something. This distance between mother and daughter wasn't new. She'd been walking away for years. Today, she just closed the door for good. $7,800,000. That was the number printed boldly across the check in my daughter Clara's hands. I hadn't even known she was opening mail, just heard the soft clink of the slot and saw a plain white envelope slide across the floor. She tore it open without looking at the return address. Her eyes darted over the page, her breath caught. The paper trembled, not from cold, but from adrenaline. And then I saw it, in the corner, the logo of our insurance company. The same one I'd been paying into for over a decade, ever since Clara worked at the old packaging plant. When she quit, I kept the policy in my name. "Just in case," I'd told her, "because you never stop protecting your child, even when they're grown. That money was meant for me. My policy. My name." But a clerical mistake had sent it straight to her. She said nothing, just slid the check back into its envelope, tucked it under her arm, and disappeared into her room. A week later, a red convertible gleamed in her driveway, then diamond studs, then handbags from stores I'd only seen in glossy magazines. When I asked, she smiled, too quick, and said, "Bonus from my old job." They finally settled. I wanted to believe her. God help me, I did. But something in her eyes told me I'd just seen the start of a lie that would change everything. Funny thing about money, Clara. It changes the way people look at you. And the way they look at their own mother. I said it quietly, almost like a passing thought, but my eyes didn't leave hers. She stepped into the kitchen, heels tapping softly on the wood, a brand new leather bag swinging from her arm, the kind that smells like wealth the moment you walk into the room. Her smile flickered, then returned, too polished, too quick. "What's that supposed to mean, Mom?" I rinsed a coffee cup, letting the warm water run over my hands longer than needed. "Just that it's been a big month for you. New car, jewellery, dresses with tags I can't even pronounce." I'm impressed she tossed the bag onto the counter. "It's called finally living a little. Not everyone wants to clip coupons forever. That's not what I meant," I said. I've been paying into that insurance for years, Clara." And I saw the envelope, white, plain. Insurance company logo, clear as day. She shifted, pulling out groceries, cheeses I'd never buy, wine with labels in French. You're imagining things. Old paperwork. That's all I stepped closer, keeping my voice calm. "If it's yours, then why hide it?" She stopped, met my eyes, and without blinking said, "You'll never see a dime of my money, Mom." The words hit harder than I expected. No warning, no hesitation. My fingers tightened around the dish towel. "My Clara? The girl I stayed up with during fevers? The woman whose bills I paid when she couldn't?" She brushed past me toward the stairs. "God, Mom, you always have to control everything. I can't breathe in this house." The door slammed upstairs, leaving the faint trace of her perfume in the air, a scent that now felt more like distance than luxury. I stayed in the kitchen, one hand on the counter. She's hiding something, and when I find it, I won't be the one caught off guard. Just a few weeks ago, we were still in the old cedar house at the edge of town. It wasn't much. Paint peeling on the porch rail, floorboards that creaked under every step. But it was ours. Back then, Clara was between jobs again. I kept the lights on, paid the water bill, and even covered the monthly premium for her personal life insurance. Just in case, I'd tell her, the same way I'd been telling her for years. You never stop protecting your child, even when they're grown. Our evenings were quiet, soup simmering on the stove, the two of us eating from mismatched bowls while the old TV hummed in the corner. Not a life of luxury, but warm. I can still see her curled up on the couch in my cardigan, laughing at some bad sitcom rerun. For a moment, she was my little girl again, the one who used to crawl into my bed during thunderstorms. Maybe I mistook comfort for closeness. Maybe I thought the roof I kept over our heads was enough to keep us together. Then came Lucas, and the restaurants, the nights she didn't come home until late, smelling of perfume I'd never owned. Our dinners turned into me, sitting at the kitchen table alone, her plate left cold and untouched. One afternoon she breezed in wearing a coat I knew she couldn't afford, her cheeks flushed with excitement. "Mom, I bought a lake house," she said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. "I'm starting my real life now, and I think it's time you learn to be on your own too." On my own. I'd been on my own since the day she was born. I just chose to carry her with me. I thought maybe it was just a figure of speech, a slip in her tone. But a week later, the rain proved me wrong. It was a cold, needling kind of rain that worked its way into your bones. She stood on the porch of her new glass and steel palace, arms crossed, Lucas behind her with that smirk he wore like armor. "You'll never see a dime of my money, you old witch," she said, the words slicing clean through the downpour. The bag in my hands felt suddenly heavy. She shoved it toward me, the zipper splitting as it hit the wet steps, my clothes spilling into puddles, my toothbrush rolling toward the gutter like it was running away. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. I just stared at her, the girl I'd raised, wondering how the warmth of soup and sitcoms had turned into this ice. Maybe the truth is, I didn't lose her in that moment. I'd been losing her slowly, one choice, one secret, one distance at a time. I just hadn't wanted to see it. And as I picked up each piece of my life from her driveway, I realized this wasn't just a bad night. It was the start of something else, something I'd have to face alone. I didn't scream, I didn't cry. Not because it didn't hurt, but because I knew screaming wouldn't change her, and crying wouldn't change what was mine. Instead, I went home, back to the old cedar house with its chipped cabinets and the steady hum of the fridge. I shut the door, leaned my back against it, and let the silence settle over me like a blanket. Then I opened the drawer in the hallway desk. There they were, years of my life in paper form. Stacks of monthly insurance receipts, each one with my name printed at the top. The original policy, creased at the folds from being opened too many times, with Evelyn Hartman, primary beneficiary typed clear as day. Bank statements showing every payment I'd made, sometimes when I wasn't sure I'd make rent. All those years I told myself it was worth it, that I was buying her a safety net, a piece of security for the future. I never thought she'd try to cut me out of it entirely. I slid open my email on the old desktop computer. It took a moment for the inbox to load, but there it was. The message from the insurance company. "Our records indicate a clerical error in the delivery of your benefit check." I read it twice, then a third time. Every word felt like a nail in the coffin of her lie. One by one, I stacked the documents neatly on the table. The receipts, the policy, the email. I didn't rush. I wanted to feel the weight of each page, the proof that I hadn't imagined all those sacrifices. She thought I'd just fade away. That being 63 meant I was too slow, too soft to fight. But she forgot. I've been surviving on less and fighting for more my entire life. By the time the clock struck midnight, everything was in a manila folder, corners sharp, ready for the next step. And for the first time since she threw me out, I felt something stronger than hurt. I felt ready. The next morning, I took the manila folder and drove into town. I hadn't seen Abigail in years, but when she opened the door to her office, she smiled like no time had passed. Evelyn. Well, this is a surprise. Not the good kind, I said, holding up the manila folder. Can I sit? Of course. She motioned to the chair across from her desk. All right, what's going on? I slid the folder toward her. It's all in there. Policy papers, payment receipts, bank statements, and an email from the insurance company admitting they sent the check to the wrong address. Abigail's brow lifted as she flipped through. This policy's in your name and you're the listed beneficiary. You've been paying into it for, over a decade? 14 years, I said. Even after she quit the job, it came from, I kept it going. Every month she nodded, already reaching for a legal pad. Okay, here's the good news. That money is legally yours. The check was misdirected. We can freeze it before she spends another dime. My stomach tightened. Freeze it? How? First, I'll call the insurance company and cite the state statute on misdirected benefits. They'll hold the funds while they investigate. Next, we'll file for a temporary restraining order on her account. Anything tied to that check will be locked until the case is resolved. I couldn't help it. I let out a small, shaky laugh. She's going to hate that. Abigail smirked. She'll survive. You've got every piece of proof we need. The contract, your payment history, and their admission of the error. Evelyn, this isn't a gamble. We'll win-win. I'd forgotten what that word felt like. She picked up the phone, dialed a number from memory, and introduced herself to someone on the other end. Her voice was calm, clipped, almost surgical as she ran through policy numbers and case notes. When she hung up, she leaned back. They've frozen the funds. An investigator will contact you within 48 hours. Until then, don't speak to Clara about this. Let her wonder. I nodded slowly, feeling a strange mix of relief and sadness. I've been letting her wonder about a lot of things lately. Clara's Instagram was a parade of perfection. Every morning, a new snapshot. Her in a silk robe by the lake, red convertible gleaming in the background, the pool shimmering under the afternoon sun, designer handbags spread across her bed like she was curating a museum exhibit. Then came Tuesday morning. I wasn't there, but I can picture it. She wakes up late, sunlight pouring through her sheer curtains. Lucas is still asleep, one arm flung across the pillow. She reaches for her phone, probably to check which picture from last night's rooftop dinner got the most likes, but decides to peek at her bank balance first. And that's when it happens. Declined, frozen, access denied. Her voice must have cut through that perfect house like shattered glass. What the hell is this? Lucas stirs, groggy. What's wrong, babe? My account, all of them, they're frozen. She snaps, pacing to the window. I can't even transfer money. The bank app won't let me in. He sits up, frowning. You sure it's not some glitch? This isn't a glitch, Lucas. Somebody's done this on purpose. She slams the phone onto the counter, the sound sharp against the quiet. It's her. It's Mom. She's behind this. Lucas runs a hand through his hair. Look, just talk to her. Maybe it's some misunderstanding. Misunderstanding? Her laugh is sharp, bitter. She's been bitter ever since I told her to stand on her own 2 feet. Now she's sabotaging me. Sabotage. That's what she'd call it, because admitting it was justice would burn too much. Lucas tries to sound reasonable. If she's got proof, it's her money. You might be in trouble. Clara spins on him. It's in my account. That makes it mine. No, daughter. That makes it stolen. By noon, her Instagram feed went silent. The champagne glasses, the poolside selfies, gone. And by the end of the week, the people who used to flood her comments with, "You're killing it," stopped tagging her at all. She called me, of course. 8 times in one afternoon. I let the phone buzz on the kitchen counter while I drank my coffee in the chipped mug I'd had for 20 years. Let her feel the stillness. Let her sit in it. Because the silence I'm giving her now isn't surrender. It's the echo of every warning she ignored. The letter from the investigation board arrived on a Thursday morning. Plain envelope. No ceremony. Inside, just one line that mattered. The benefit payment in question is legally and solely the property of Evelyn Hartman. That was it. Months of silence, stacks of documents and sleepless nights, all distilled into a single sentence. A week later, I stood on my porch holding a new check. No cameras, no champagne, just me and the steady hum of the cicadas in the trees. I didn't rush to the bank. I took a long walk first, past the church, down the road where the maples were starting to turn. I thought about all the times I'd worried if the lights would stay on, all the small things I'd gone without so she wouldn't have to. That afternoon, I paid off the mortgage on the old cedar house. The next day, I sent a donation to the women's shelter 2 towns over, enough to keep their doors open through the winter. By the end of the month, I signed the papers on a little farm outside the city. Just enough land for a garden, a porch swing, and peace. Clara didn't come to the hearing, but I heard the whispers later. The mansion under foreclosure, the car repossessed, the handbags pawned. Lucas left as soon as the money was gone. Couldn't handle the drama, someone told me. I wondered if he ever liked her at all, or just the glitter she wore like armor. I should have felt vindicated. Maybe part of me did, but mostly I felt the quiet weight of finality. You don't win back what's been broken. Not really. You just stop carrying it. I sat on my new porch that first evening, the check long deposited, the sun slipping behind the fields. The air smelled of cut grass and something cleaner. Freedom, maybe. And I thought, she lost the money. She lost him. But worst of all, she lost me. It was late afternoon when I heard the knock. Not the sharp, impatient kind she used to give, but slow, almost unsure. When I opened the door, she stood there in a sweatshirt 2 sizes too big, hair unwashed, eyes rimmed red. No heels, no diamond studs, just a girl who looked 10 years older than she had a month ago. "Mum," her voice cracked, "I don't have anywhere else to go." I held the door but didn't move aside. "Clara, you have to understand, that's not an accident. You made choices." She swallowed hard. "I know, but I thought..." "You thought I'd keep catching you," I said softly. "Like I always did." Her eyes filled, but I kept my voice steady. "Do you remember the nights I stayed up so you could sleep off your bad decisions? The bills I paid when you forgot? The years I covered that insurance so you'd be safe? Not so you could throw me out when it paid off?" She looked down at her shoes. I was stupid. I was angry. "No, Clara. You were selfish. And I let you be, because I thought love meant covering for you, but love without respect. It's just surrender. And I'm done surrendering." She lifted her head then, searching my face for some crack in my resolve. "So you're really not going to help me?" "I am helping you," I said. "Just not in the way you want. Sometimes the only help left is letting someone face what they've done." The silence between us felt heavy, but not cruel. I stepped back, not to invite her in, but to close the door gently. As the latch clicked, I leaned against the wood and let out a long breath. This isn't revenge. This is a release. Out on the porch, her footsteps faded down the gravel path. In my chest, the ache was real. But under it was something steadier. Pride. Because the truth is, walking away from someone you love isn't weakness. Sometimes it's the loudest way to say, "I still matter," to keep track of and update population and permit data by hand, using either books or mobile phone apps. However, there are a few factors that make it challenging to update data smoothly, such as busy schedules and difficulty accessing the data. They don't often update data regularly, but they try to ensure it's up to date and complete by gathering input from various groups, including cadres, PKK members, and local officials. I kept my hand on the door a moment longer after it clicked shut, feeling the grain of the wood beneath my palm. My heart was still racing, but my breathing had steadied. I didn't cry. I didn't shake. For once, the silence in this house belonged to me. I walked to the kitchen and filled the kettle. The whistle rose sharp and clear, a sound that reminded me life keeps moving forward, with or without apologies. I carried my tea to the porch and lowered myself into the chair. The sun was sliding down behind the fields, painting the sky in bruised colours of purple and gold. At the end of the gravel path, I could just make out her figure growing smaller, then gone. For a heartbeat, an old instinct tugged at me. Call her name, pull her back, forgive too quickly. But I pressed the thought down. I'd called after her my whole life. Tonight, for the first time, I called after myself. The evening air was cool. Across the way, my neighbour Mrs. Callahan passed with a basket of tomatoes. She waved. Evening, Evelyn. Looks like the storm's let up. I managed a small smile. Yes, it has. She handed me one tomato, still warm from the sun. I turned it over in my hand, marvelling at its simple weight. Strange how a single piece of fruit could feel more grounding than $7 million ever did. Later that night, I opened the manila folder one last time. Receipts, statements, the letter from the board. They no longer felt like armour. They were only proof that I had not been erased. I slid the papers back inside, locked the drawer, and let the key rest in my palm. Upstairs, I pulled the quilt around my shoulders. The house was quiet, but no longer lonely. Tomorrow I would drive into town for seeds, maybe plant tomatoes of my own. Perhaps I'd stop by the shelter where women still fought their storms. I had more to give. But now I would choose who deserved it. That night I slept deeply, without waiting for the crunch of tires in the driveway, without listening for footsteps that never came. For the first time in decades, I wasn't waiting on anyone at all. So, that's how the story ends. If this made you think, or if you've lived through something similar, share your thoughts in the comments. Our channel is a space for sharing tales of the elderly and family revenge stories from people who have weathered life's storms. Subscribe to the channel for more, because sometimes the deepest form of revenge is simply living on your own terms.